Well, it's the day a lot of people have been waiting for. Captain Marvel is finally in theaters. Before the movie was coming out, I heard from some pretty reputable sources on Twitter that the movie was going to be terrible. I saw the movie, and I didn't think it was terrible. A lot of critics don't seem to think it's terrible. That $400 million box office gross doesn't seem to think it's terrible, so I guess it's not a terrible movie. Marvel once again creates an entertaining, action-packed at times film, somewhat follows their formula but tries something new and different, and you know, it's once again proving that Phase 3 is easily going to be the best of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The thing I'm kind of interested in at this point with the MCU, other than the fact that I do enjoy these characters they've already introduced, is that I'm liking that they're starting to introduce different types of people into the roles. They're making it more diverse. Last year we got Black Panther. This year we're getting Captain Marvel. You know, now we finally have a female lead for an entire movie. That's something we technically haven't seen yet. Sure, we got Black Widow. Sure, we've had characters here and there, the Wasp and characters from Black Panther, but we never really have had just a female leading the entire film. I also like that Sam Jackson has a huge supporting role. That's another thing we haven't really seen for a long time. I guess he had a supporting role in Winter Soldier. He kind of did in Iron Man 2, but for the most part, he's been sidelined a lot. We've seen him pop up as a cameo here and there, but we haven't really had him for an entire movie. Not like this. We also get to see the return of a lot of faces. Phil Coulson. We see some characters and a villain from Guardians of the Galaxy. We're starting to open up the entire universe a little more. We're starting to see more space stuff, the cosmic stuff, and that's something a lot of Marvel fans have been waiting for. And I mean, the movie takes place in the 90s, so you know, it's the first Marvel movie since, I guess technically, Captain America, the First Avenger, where it is kind of a period piece. It takes place in the 90s. It has a 90s look, has 90s businesses. Blockbuster and Radio Shack, for some reason, take up the same strip mall. I guess that's the strip mall of We'll Be Dead Someday. There's also an internet cafe. There's a joke about AOL. It's just, it really gets that 90s aesthetic down good. And it has a wonderful tribute to Stan Lee, and probably one of his more on-the-nose cameos. And honestly, I loved it, and a lot of movie fans are going to enjoy it too. It's going to be kind of hard for me to explain what it is about the movie, but watching it, it didn't really feel like a lot of what Marvel's been doing lately. It had a different style to it, a different pace. It's going to be a pace that I don't think a lot of people are going to be accustomed to. Even me, I wasn't a big fan of how things were going at first. It seemed slow. It didn't seem like we were doing enough development. But at the same time, it really wasn't trying to do all the typical beats of an origin story. It was trying to do some different stuff. It was trying to just introduce a character who already has their powers and is trying to figure out their past. But at the same time, that's not the important focus of the movie. It's not like she needs to figure out her past or that she even really cares. I don't know if some people would be a little turned off by that idea. Maybe they'll think it's weird that her past isn't driving the movie, but it's really not. This movie is more about discovering yourself and finding your own strength and power. I enjoyed it too, especially by the third act. I was like, I finally get what this character is doing. I'm behind her and her story, and I think it might be a little off-putting to some. Not in a bad way, just in a way that we're not accustomed to a story being told this way. I think for as generic as it is, you know, being an origin story for a cinematic universe that has been compiled of almost half of them are origin stories and the other half are sequels and such. This one joins the origin stories, and yeah, it rips off a lot of ideas from past work, but it also does try to expel these ideas in a different way. Does it always work? Well, you know, there's times where, especially at the beginning, where I felt that the movie was filmed, it was written and shot in one way, and then the filmmakers decided, I want to make it a little more original, I want to re-edit things, I don't want to get into these details as much, I just want these to be dropped here and there as hints, but I don't we don't need to go through her entire backstory. And maybe that's not what happened. Maybe the movie was written this way, but it definitely feels like there's a lot of extra footage being shot that was maybe part of a larger backstory that we don't delve into too much. But at the same time, I could see a lot of people being fine that there's no backstory, because we've seen that a lot in this cinematic universe. It's kind of nice that for once we're not doing an origin story that's completely focused on how she became Captain Marvel. Instead, we're just seeing her be Captain Marvel. We see her have these powers. We see her reach her full potential. And I think it works really well in the third act. The first two acts, I think there are maybe pacing problems. It did make me a little bored at times. But I guess also I wasn't used to the fact that we're not getting as many action beats in this movie. Even the final scene isn't an action fight, it's more of a conversation, which I actually liked. It is actually one of the better scenes in the entire movie, but I guess it's more that halfway through we get a car chase and the subway chase, and that's a lot of fun. But it's not anything new that we haven't seen before, and for a franchise that's been so good at twisting and turning the ways that they're going to do action scenes, it was weird that this one didn't have much. We had that action scene, and that's about it. We kind of go the rest of the movie without something like that. But of course, by the third act, the story is starting to get really enjoyable. There's starting to be some twists and turns here, and I think it throws people for a surprise. I enjoyed it. She is a great actress. She has a really compelling story by the end. But when she's first introduced, it did take me a lot to get behind her character. I didn't really get what her path was. I didn't really get her motivation. Black Panther and Doctor Strange and Ant-Man, for instance, they're all characters that I didn't feel had much drive at the beginning as well. All those movies kind of had the same problems, but the only difference is those movies have side characters that fill up the story. This one, we get Nick Fury, but that's about it. There's not really a wide cast of cool characters this time around, which Marvel's been really good at that, and this time around I don't think they did as good of a job. And yeah, we get introduced to her friend by the end, which I love their friendship. I like their relationship and the way it's developed, but I wish maybe she would have been in the movie more, or if we would have gotten someone else, because the third act, I'm telling you, it gets really good. It's not like the best thing Marvel's ever done, but it is a really solid third act that makes you wish that the rest of the movie was as good. The movie, to me, is still enjoyable. It has a really good look to it. It has probably some of the best special effects that they've done, honestly. And it is going to feel different from other Marvel Cinematic Universe films, which might turn off some people. I enjoyed it for the simple fact that it was different. How will it hold up in future viewings? I have no idea. I usually enjoy these Marvel movies because it's like watching a serial. It's like the next adventure, the next adventure. I always want to see more because I am so invested in these characters, in this universe. But I can't say that it reaches the same level as something like Iron Man or Captain America or even something like Doctor Strange or Ant-Man. I just didn't really enjoy it as much. But there are going to be people who really do. So with that, it was a good movie, good looking movie, could have been better paced. I'll give it 3 out of 5 stars. So what'd you think of Captain Marvel? Did you enjoy the movie, or were you one of the people on Twitter who was guessing its box office demise? This movie's making a lot of money, guys, and it doesn't surprise me one bit. I figured, hey, just like Black Panther, people are seeing in Captain Marvel what they haven't really seen before, and that's a different, diverse character. Of course the movie's going to make a lot of money. I'm sure a lot of ladies went and saw this movie this weekend, and hey, the Marvel fans, even if there were some complaining, I'm sure there... I don't really get, if you're a Marvel fan, why you'd be complaining about Brie Larson, but I'm sure everybody went regardless. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.